Happy Sunday. All right, hopefully I have some sound. I'm not even trying my AirPod today. I'm just going to go with computer sound. All right. Happy Sunday. Give it a few minutes. All right. Happy Sunday. All right, I see some thumbs up. Give folks a few minutes. Hello, Sadiq. I'm doing pretty good. Hi, Cynthia. Happy Sunday. Hi, Judith. Good morning to you. Happy Sunday, WLJ. Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. Glad you all are here. Hi, Latasha. Happy Sunday. All right. I'm going to do my intro, kick it off. Happy Sunday. Happy you all are here. Okay, sound is good. Thanks for that heads up. I didn't even start with my AirPod. Like, we're just canceling the AirPod. I don't know what's happening with the AirPods. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Sadiq has been enjoying some music. Hello, Lillian. Happy Sunday to you. All right, I'm going to do my intro and get started. Happy Sunday, everybody. Glad you all are here. Sunday, July the 7th. We are already 7 months into this year, 2024. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are located. My name is Jewel Pearson. This is Miss Bohemian Soul TV. This is Creating Home, a tiny house series, and the segment that we are going to participate in today is just one of the community conversations, and there are 3 segments in this series. The conversations on intimate spaces, where we are talking to someone in and around the tiny house movement, and then the What's Your Question segment, where I am answering frequently asked tiny house questions. We had that segment last week. And then today, just community conversations where we are sharing and talking and doing all of those things. As I introduce myself, I always say that I built a kind of fancy tiny house in 2015. And since that time, I have shared my journey and my expertise to inspire others who are interested in the movement. And I do also offer coaching and consultations, and you'll be able to find those links in the video description once this goes live. And as I'm doing all of that, I try to serve up a lot of representation in this movement. I want us to be able to see ourselves in this movement. So welcome if this is your first time. For everyone returning on Sunday, thank you so much for joining. Hello, Kimberly. Good afternoon. Well, good morning to you in Los Angeles. All right, Judith says she's sending us some cool weather. We are having a heat wave. Hi, Kitty. Happy Soul Sunday. Good to see you as well. Colleen is here from Raleigh, not too far from me. Welcome. Hi, Key. Thank you so much. Hi, Key. Glad to have you here. So happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you. Key is encouraging you all to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all being here on this Sunday. I wasn't exactly sure I was going live this Sunday. Okay, Key is a frog and not a dinosaur. So we are having a conversation in the Patreon community, a video that I shared, and Key says she's a frog, not a dinosaur. So Key, you've got to continue that conversation over in Patreon so we can participate there. Thank you for watching that video. It was a really good video. So thank you. I Wasn't sure I was going live today. I have so much going on in my headspace, this um, medical journey. I am um, my heart, kind of like my body, like kind of the person I am, is not excited about I shared with you all that I had a procedure a month and a week ago. They put a device in my heart to close the PFO, the hole that they determined I had, which 1 in 4 people have lived with it all this time and not known I had it until um, it was part of the cause of me having that mini stroke. And so they put a device in my heart to close that up so that blood would not go across the chambers, because it shouldn't anymore. And my heart is not excited about said device. Like, maybe we should have done some proper introductions or something. Like, we just don't normally do strangers. And so my heart is being true to who we are, and is not playing very well with this device. And so I am dealing with some challenges there, some changes to my heart rate and rhythm that are kind of, not kind of, that are scary, that are serious. Even though I'm kind of making a joke about it, it's actually very serious. And so I've been dealing with that. And then I also have to have another procedure that I just learned about recently. So I'm having another procedure on Tuesday. So I am not excited about that at all. But it is part of the process to make sure that I am well. I Part of um, the mini stroke was a blood clot that caused the mini stroke, and so it was also a and I've had blood clots. 2007, I actually had bunches of blood clots in both of my lungs, and just really have not had not done the work to figure out what leads me to have a propensity to blood clots. And so there was some work done to figure that out this time. And so there is a procedure I need to have to put a stent in a vein to open a vein up that's being compressed by an artery. And so that's the procedure that I'm going to have on Tuesday. And so I am not excited about that at all. I don't. Um, this one will be, I think the recovery is going to be a little more challenging than this last one, if you can imagine that. But I am really trying to get all of these things taken care of so that I can be and get back to 100%, or close to 100%, or get back to feeling okay. And so dealing with the heart stuff, dealing with knowing this procedure is happening, it's a lot. And I am really trying to stay in that space of optimism, gratitude, even in the midst of a whole bunch of scary stuff happening. And so I wasn't exactly sure I was going to go live today, but I figured it would um, serve me well to be in community with you all, because that is some joy. It brings me joy. So I am here, and I have been very transparent about this journey. I really want, um, as I've shared before, like the due diligence, the research that I'm having to do, the questions that I'm having to ask, the push that of things that have where I've had to kind of push these doctors to do some more work, or tell me a direction I need to be going in, or send me to somebody else who, if they don't have the answers, this person can have the answer, find the answers, or keep referring me to somebody who eventually will get the answers, is important. And it's not something that I think we expect that we should have to do. Like, you expect that doctors should do all of this work as part of their job and part of their care for you. But when you think about it, they're human, they're caring for a lot of things. They also have stresses. And so the avocation, is that a word? Um, if it isn't, it's a word right now. advocating for yourself and for family is one of the things that I really just want to encourage everybody to be part of doing. And so yeah, that's everything that I have going on. So hi Sandra, glad to have you here. I hope you are well. I miss our conversations, you being here. So I'm always happy to see your name in the chat. Hi, Cynthia. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Sadiq. I appreciate that. Thank you, WLJ. Good morning, Glorious Life on Wheels. Happy Sunday, Rosalind. We are claiming 200% better. I'm claiming that as well, Cynthia. I joked with a friend of mine that I said by the time all of this is over, I feel like I should just be the bionic woman. Just it's a lot. But I'm grateful that it's being figured out. I'm grateful that um I do like my doctors, even though I feel like I have to push them. I'm grateful that I do like them, and I trust them. And so I'm grateful about that. Also grateful that um, I trust that all of this is um, happening as it should and will happen as it should. And just trying to stay in that mindset. Um, Glorious Life on Wheels says it can certainly be challenging dealing with health issues and having procedures done, but it beats the alternative for sure. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Um, absolutely. And I say that a lot. Thank you, Colleen. I appreciate that. Um, Sadiq is asking, have I considered moving to Atlanta? I remember seeing Precious Price building a shed in her backyard and renting out her main home. So, um, I would say Atlanta is not any friendlier to tiny houses on wheels than where I am right now. Um, it is the wheels that just cause everybody all of the issues. Which what difference does it matter that it's on wheels? It's still a house. And so I would still have some of the challenges. So Dick is saying, depending on their ADU, I know you meant ADU regulations, you may be able to find a lot rental, which would get you closer to the city than the farm. So my house being on wheels still won't count as an ADU in Georgia. I could take my house to California, several cities in California, and they would allow it to be considered as an ADU. But the East Coast hasn't gotten to that level of awareness and progression to allow my house to be considered as an ADU. So I thank you for that idea. Somebody just asked me, would I consider moving my house to Atlanta? But I'd have the same challenge of finding a location. And it would have to be somebody, with a large enough backyard, a covert enough backyard that would allow me to to exist there, unless I found like an RV park or something like that. So thank you for that idea. I do actually have someone coming this afternoon to see my house. Someone that I reached out to, who has um, property that would suit my house beautifully. So I am hoping. She's not exactly sure that she rents her property out for campers, not one person camping at a time. And so I reached out to her to see if she'd consider a long-term tenant. And she said she's not sure she wants to use her property like that. but she's interested. And so I'm hoping that, so I feel like right now, because I think I know I've shared with you all, from the beginning of moving here, when I added this sunroom space in the front porch, I really had no intentions of moving my house, which is why, excuse me, y'all, which is why I was very comfortable in building this space, because this space is on piers. It's not actually movable. Well, let me change that. It's not on wheels. I don't want to say it's not movable. I built it because I again had no intentions of moving my house. Um, it is connected to my house um, around the roof line and the floor, and um, so it adds some more complexity. No, it adds complexity, not more complexity. It adds some complexity to moving my house. Um, the original part of my house, the tiny house that's built on the 28-foot trailer, can absolutely still move. Um, but it's not impossible, is the answer. I have a friend, Chris, who builds tiny houses and has worked with manufactured houses before, and had him come out and kind of assess it. And so I have a plan for what it would take to move my entire space. Um, it is going to be a little bit complex, but not impossible, because it's still not as big as a modular home or a mobile home or anything like that. And they move traditional houses all the time. So it's not as complex as that. It is more complex than what had originally been me just moving my house, getting a tow service and moving my house. So part of this will actually have to be on a trailer, since this is built on piers and not on wheels. Um, but it's the good news, the great news is that it's doable. The other piece of that is going to somebody's property. I need more space than I originally needed, because my tiny house on wheels is just, almost 28 feet long, 9 feet wide. This sunroom space adds another 9 feet to it. So a 9 feet in width, and adds another 9.5, almost 10 feet length. So I need more space, um, which is why I also, have kind of that ups the requirements for me in backyard, somebody's backyard. It has to be a decent sized backyard now, um, a bigger size backyard than what I originally needed. But it's not impossible. And so this woman's space will absolutely accommodate my house. The interesting part of it is, where she's located is where my is in the same area where my house was located. When I first built it, when I moved to the RV park that was on the lake, she is in that same area, and she's actually located on the lake. Um, so she's coming to this afternoon, and hopefully, it will be a good connection, for both of us. And hopefully, if it's a good connection for both of us, hopefully she'll be interested in allowing me to put my home there. And then um, I have to figure out the rest from a logistics and financial process. Um, but keep thinking, for me. Don't I didn't say any of that to say don't continue to give me suggestions. I'm doing the same thing. Colleen is saying thank you for taking time out for us, even though you have major things going on. Thank you. I felt like, when I was trying to decide whether I was going live, I knew that being in community, and being in conversation would help me, in my headspace, and help me set myself up in a good space for the week and for the things I have ahead. So thank you for being here in community with me. Is Judy in Alaska? Okay, I didn't know that. Um, Rosin is saying something. Oh, Rosin is saying it sure isn't. Oh, about Atlanta being more friendly to tiny houses on wheels. I'm in Atlanta. Definitely isn't tiny house friendly. The outskirts are a little better. Yes, yes. So the same thing here. The outskirts are, and when we say a little more friendly, it's like they aren't always in your business. So some you're still not necessarily asking for permission, kind of just doing the things and being left alone. Because they're unless somebody tells on you or they see you some kind of way, they're usually not checking. Hey Casey, happy Sunday to you. Effie is saying, good afternoon from Baltimore. You have so much to share, and we are thankful for it. Praying for your complete recovery. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, I appreciate that so much. Hi, Day. You are right on time. You are fine. Happy Sunday to you. I hope you are having a beautiful day. Glorious Life on Wheels. Are there any legislators where you are that might champion changing the law allowing tiny homes on wheels in backyards using the California legislation as a guide? Yeah, that's what that has kind of been the work that we've been doing for the last 100 years. My thing to these folks is that you don't even have to reinvent the wheel. All of the it is written out. All of the rules, all of the things have been thought through. How to make the changes, what needs to be changed, how to institute the changes. All of those things have been thought out. Dan Fitzpatrick, who I just had as a keynote speaker in April at the event, the Tiny House event here, and he and I are also going to do some other workshops. So the work continues, and that is the conversation that we have with them. I don't have anybody specifically that is championing it. I do. I have a local person here. His focus is more on tiny houses on wheels. I mean, tiny houses on foundation. People get a little. I don't know if I want to use the word weird, but weird is kind of it when you start talking about wheels because they just don't understand, can't comprehend um, houses on wheels. Like even with this person that I was just speaking of, um, his understanding until we just had a conversation about it a couple of months ago was that people who live in tiny houses on wheels are just transient people, and and he felt like that doesn't isn't something that's good for a city because you create a community for these people with tiny houses on wheels and they're just going to always be leaving. And I was like, no, that's not the case for tiny houses on wheels. I said, you know me, and I move to places and I stay 2, 3, 4 years if I find the perfect spot. Like I really don't have to move. And perfect not being, there's nothing perfect. So let me change that. But I had to explain to him like the houses are built on wheels for cost, economics. Building on wheels avoids the cost associated with building on foundation. There's so many costs associated with going through that permitting process. Um, People who build on wheels, they do want to have the flexibility to relocate, but it's not if they're building the larger houses, they're not moving that house, every other day, every month. I mean, because there's a lot that goes into that. They also want stability. They do want the flexibility to move, but they're also interested in staying in places. And then there's so many people who are interested in tiny houses on wheels. There will never be a lack of people interested in being in a community if cities would just build the communities. That would then help people be able to pull the trigger to say, okay, there are communities available, and now I'm comfortable with building my tiny house. And so I think the non-understanding of wheels, the fact that people still want home, um, and stability, are things that that non-tiny house people, I don't think, grasp very well. And so that continues to be, and I made a mental note that as I'm doing workshops, that I need to add that into the workshops and into to conversations with these officials who also might have that thought in the back of their mind where they don't understand that it's just not people aren't just transient because they build houses on wheels. Um, Colleen is asking, are you looking to purchase land to move your home to permanently? What about the Black tiny home community that is being planned in I can't remember how Deidre said like she skipped all of the letters in the middle. Rutherford, something like that. I still am going to say Rutherford, North Carolina. Um, so two pieces to that. In order to purchase land to put my home on permanently, that land would have to have other structures there, such as a house or a barn or some structures that already have electricity and water, because there is no place on in this area that's going to allow me to place a tiny house on wheels on just a raw piece of land and then allow me to get utilities. I could potentially buy a raw piece of land, and when I say raw piece of land, it doesn't have any utilities, it's just land. I could potentially buy a raw piece of land that was covert, some trees and stuff, and nobody really knows what's going on that land, and live there if I wanted to live 100% off grid and not have access to services. But the minute that you need services, the minute that you need utilities, then you have to call in the city or the county for permits to have those services. And unless you have a structure on foundation, they're not going to permit you access to utilities for a tiny house on wheels. So that's the main answer for that. And then the second piece, I had this conversation with another friend who was like, "Well, Jewel, why don't you just buy some property that has a house on it and place your tiny house there?" I really don't want to own property and be responsible for a structure, be responsible for maintaining the land. I that's just not my journey. For me, there is there is personal liberation for me in my house having wheels, in me just being responsible for this house and for my my expenses. I don't want to be responsible for land for a home on foundation anymore. And I've owned a home, so and I have nothing against home ownership. For me, there is some um, I don't necessarily I don't bondage has a negative connotation to it, but for me, it is somewhat of a bondage kind of thing associated with it. Like I want the ability to be here, but then to also leave and be out of the country and to live out of the country part of the year, to live in other places in the United States. And maybe bondage wasn't, though, there's some responsibility that for me is associated with land ownership and a home on foundation that that responsibility doesn't sit the same with me and my house as it is. And so that's not my personal interest. Now, again, I do want to build a tiny house community, a community for tiny houses on wheels. But as far as like land ownership for myself and owning a home, and um, that's not any interest that I have as of right now. You know, I can't, as of right now, I don't see that changing. I'm not one to say you don't get to dream a new dream. So, should something inspire me later on and says that I, I'm going to do something different, then that's a different conversation. So I'm not going to say never. But because again, things change. But as of right now, that's not um, my story that I see for myself. And then as far as the tiny home community in Rutherford Ton, Rutherford, not Rutherford Ton, Rutherford. It is an hour and a half outside of Charlotte. And I want to be like, I'm 45. Where I am right now is 45 minutes outside of Charlotte. I want to be closer into the city. I wish it were closer because that would be absolutely something that I'd be interested in. But as of right now, it's too far out. Okay, so Judith is saying, yes, I made the long, beautiful drive along with some other folks of color. That is amazing. I need to see some pictures. I'm excited. That's exciting. That's very exciting. I hope you have an amazing time. Happy Sunday, Ladies Legacy Network. I think she pronounced it Ruffton. Exactly. That's it. She skipped all of and I have to go back and look at it. It's like Rutherford. And yes, it was something like that where it was like all the extra letters were gone. I got to practice that. Hi, Wayne. Graham Rising to you all. Might want to move to Texas where zoning laws are the most lenient. You can purchase unrestricted acreage and do as you please here in Texas. Plenty of unrestricted land here in Texas. Don't y'all have a crazy governor? Um, don't Texas got somebody crazy? Um, I think I'm staying out of Texas other than to visit Houston where there's a bunch of brown folks. I like Dallas. I think I would only visit Texas. What do I know about Texas? Y'all got something happening there. And then y'all's power, there's something happening with y'all's power too. Thank you, Wayne, but I think Wayne, I think Texas is on my list. Ain't y'all's governor crazy like the governor in Florida? Um I think something is fishy about Texas that I can't pull up right now. Y'all already know. I already told y'all how my memory works right now, but it's something about Texas. Rosalind is saying, I think if elected officials understood that tiny house dwellers are registered voters and are their constituents, their attitudes would change. Like, I just feel like they feel like we're just weird hippies, like the way they looked at hippies in the 60s and 70s, like no sense of responsibility and common ass sense and stuff like that. And so when my friend said that, it was like, um, they're just transient. I was like, I've been in the same place for 3 years. Like, you know me. Like, how did you even get transient? Um, but it is the because they just don't know, and it is just the things that they make up in their heads about tiny houses, and tiny houses on wheels, and the people who live in them. Exactly to your point, Rosalind. I go back to the story that I've shared before, where I had been introduced to a gentleman who um, works in the space supporting the unhoused, and I was introduced to him by a city councilman, and was talking about my house and recommending my house as tiny houses on wheels as a solution for the unhoused. And he said, I would, he said, no offense to you, but I would never recommend a tiny house on wheels for someone unhoused. He said, I would want them to have the same access in, he didn't say luxuries. He said the same things that I have in in my traditional house. I wouldn't want them to have any less than I have. He said it another way, and I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he was like, I just wouldn't recommend a tiny house. And he kept saying, no offense to you, no offense to you. And I just listened to him. And then at the end of it, I said, I'm absolutely not offended. I said, but what I know is you don't understand tiny houses. And I said, and all I want to do is invite you to my house. And I then coordinated him and several other people and that city councilman to come to my house, because it's the visual, the actual understanding of a tiny house on wheels. And this is when I was in the neighborhood in the city of Charlotte. And as soon as he got to the house and he was out on the sidewalk, I could see he had already changed his mind. Like, because his concept, it is that thing I told you all that people start doing. Oh, you live in the tiny house, and they start doing something like this. And that annoys me so bad, because in their mind, I imagine that they're figuring that I live like in a doghouse in somebody's backyard. And so as he was coming up my walkway, when he got to the door, he was standing on the front porch. He hadn't even come in the house. And he got to the door and he said, I owe you an apology. And I said, I already knew that you just didn't understand tiny houses. And then I let him come in and gave him the tour. And what I said to him is, there is nothing, I am not lacking anything in my house that I've had in my traditional houses, except for space. I have washer dryer. I have a walk-in closet. I have all of the things. Like, I'm an older tiny house dweller. I've lived in some very nice spaces. I've owned a beautiful home, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home. In designing my house and building my house, I never wanted to feel like I was giving anything up, because for me, that would have not been sustainable. And so my tagline, you don't have to give up luxury to go tiny. And that's absolutely true. If you design your home well, if you design your home to fit the needs of who you are and what you need in a space, um, if you work with a professional who can help you design your home, um, if you can't do it yourself, you can absolutely have all of the things that you need in that home that you've had in your traditional spaces, except the excess space. And so the understanding, the awareness, and it is just so much of society how they put things in a box, or they put things in a space that they don't understand, and it becomes a negative without them even understanding it, because that's just what people do. um Yes, that's the word. It's not really bondage. Rosalind is saying it's more of an encumbrance. I agree with that. So my words, y'all know sometimes I don't have my words, and I don't know that I would have come up with that. So thank you, Rosalind, for that word. Um Rachel is saying, please check out Heart Health Approach with Baxter Montgomery Heart and Wellness. His approach seems holistic and integrative. My prayers are with you. Okay, Rachel, thank you for that. I'll look into that. Thank you. Okay, so Wayne is saying a lot of nomads are moving to Texas for your very reasons. The laws are great here, and a lot of them build their own storage space to park their tinies and RVs in when they travel or live abroad on their land. Okay. Thank you, Wayne. Glorious Life on Wheels. Wonder if a proposal for a trial period of 1 year with, say, 25 tiny homes permitted as part of the study might be more palatable and a way of introducing the concept. Yeah. I mean, that's a good idea. It's really just the changing of minds, because so many people who are in charge of zoning and making those decisions. They are really and affordable housing, the um of using those buzzwords. They're more into the lip service of it and not really into the solutioning of it, because they are chasing big dollar. Like, they're trying to make money, satisfy corporations and things like that. And developers, big developers that are developing big houses and communities, um, and that's where more of the money is. And so trying to have these conversations just becomes um, buzzwords. But I mean, it's what I do. It doesn't stop me from continuing to push this. And so um, it goes on. I feel like um, it's gonna happen, for sure. It's gonna happen in one of these surrounding areas, and then some of the bigger. Then that's when the bigger cities start to take notice, and they jump on board because somebody else has to do it. Governor Abbott is, yes, I knew Texas had a crazy governor. Yes, thank you. I knew he was batshit crazy. And Judith is saying Texas is hot as hell all summer long. Governor Abbott. Yeah, I knew y'all had a crazy governor over there. Um, Thank you so much. KC is asking, does Texas allow Black history to be taught? That's on everybody's list to try to get rid of, KC. Um, Wayne is saying melanated folks are everywhere in Texas. I don't worry about politics. They're all crazy. They are. Texas, hands down, is the place to be for all nomads and alternative home dwellers. Texas is awesome. Okay. Um, WLJ is saying, yes, the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, etc. Texas can only be a place to visit for me as well. All right. Um, Latasha is saying, what about people who live in apartments and move often? Is that not okay? Isn't that transient as well? I agree with that, but I think they see that differently because that money is going into that apartment building. So that person is staying there in that apartment building and spending a astronomical amount of rent that's going into the city budget, and then they leave and they go to another apartment and do the same thing, or they buy a house. Tiny house dwellers own their home and are taking their home with them. So I think they see that as this is just going to be an empty community, versus as soon as somebody rolls out, somebody else is ready to roll in, because they just don't get that concept. um Casey is saying, I have to worry about politics as judges are being seated that will set precedents that will affect us for generations. Absolutely. That Project 2025 is absolutely batshit crazy and will affect absolutely everything. So I agree with you. Montian, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy to have you. It's a new name. Welcome. Welcome to the community. So yeah, I mean, all of them are crazy, absolutely. Democrats, Republicans, everybody is batshit crazy. But to exist here, you've kind of got to pick your poison and figure out which way you're going. And some stuff is more poisonous than others. Um, it's it's an awful and sad state of affairs. Um, so yes, heads up that I will, once I get my life back together, and I literally mean that, get my health and everything back together. Like, I'm trying to get back to my space of joy, health wise, travel wise. Like, I learned from this procedure I'm having on Tuesday, I can't travel for a month. And I'm like, a month? Like, what do you mean I can't travel for a month? Get on a plane for a month. I was okay. Yes. But anyway, I have some meetups happening here in Charlotte. I'm also considering a meetup in Atlanta. I want to ramp up the tiny house stuff. And okay, Judith is saying, have a great week, a wonderful week, everyone. On your thank you. Um, be safe. Have a fabulous time. Um, Meetups is what I was saying about meetups, workshops. I have a long list of stuff. I want to, this work that we've been talking about, the changing mindsets, like it has to be nonstop, rolling out these conversations, getting community involved, the education of people, like that conversation about transient people, the understanding for people who might not be interested in tiny houses, aren't tiny house people, but are just tiny house curious, so that they can understand it, so that they can also be in these spaces to have these conversations. So all of that work um, is work that I will be doing. I also shared with you all the last week, as I am talking about the app, the cooperative communities. I have two initiatives: cooperative communities and collective communities. So I have to make sure I know which one I'm talking about. So cooperative communities is the app that I shared with you all last week. The developers are still working. There's some search functionality that I need them to correct, so before I can roll it out full steam. So it's got a soft launch right now, but I want that piece of it to be correct before I do my full-blown rollout. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's exciting work. Just trying to, I need to get myself into the a better space, physically and then mentally, that comes along with that, to roll out this work. But there is plenty of work to do, and that's upcoming. Okay, so Wayne. Okay, Wayne, I'm gonna leave you. Okay, Wayne. Okay, Wayne says he thinks Governor Abbott is great. I'm gonna leave that one right on alone. Um, he's done a lot for veterans. I'm gonna leave that one alone, Wayne. I'm happy you love Texas. That's what I'm gonna say. And as far as Black history, we should be teaching ourselves. I agree with that, but it also needs to be part of the public curriculum, because we can know our history, but if history isn't being taught to the masses, just like growing up, it wasn't taught in schools. It needs to be taught. It's past time for it to be taught, just like they're teaching um, American history, and they're teaching the history that they want to portray, teaching that the enslaved were happy to be enslaved, that there are benefits to being enslaved, like all of that BS that's being taught. Like, yes, we should be teaching ourselves, but there also has to be something that is done in society to for the awareness, for the people who are perpetuating the systemic racism, to actually understand. They not at home teaching um, Black history. That's not what they're going to do, and so it has to be taught in the schools, and it has to be taught correctly. So I'm gonna leave that one alone, so I don't go into a far off tangent. I'm happy that you're there. I'm happy that you're happy there, is what I'm gonna say. Um, Sadiq is saying the new location you're thinking about going to, is it in a park? I'm sorry, I missed a bit earlier. No, no worries. You don't have to apologize. This is actually somebody's private property, but it is off of a lake, in an area where there is a lake, and it is the same area where I was actually located. If you watched my HGTV episode in 2015, I was in an RV park that was um, located on this same lake. So it's in that same area. It's not an RV park, but this is someone's private property in that same area, and she has a couple of acres, and so she actually has And the way it's set up is no one would know I'm there, which is beautiful, and it's enough space. And so I'm hopeful that it is a good fit for her and a good fit for me, and that she's interested in allowing it to happen. So, um, yeah, thank you. Hi, Lenora. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. Um, yeah. Thank you, WLJ. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, subscribe, like, share, comment, do all the things, share the videos, so that I can keep some traction on my content and help me grow my channel and make some money, which is what I need to do as I'm navigating this space of you ain't got no job. So, yes, as I'm trying to grow and stay afloat, and thankfully, I will continue to live indoors because I own my home, but live indoors and have power and water and all of those things. So, yes, thank you, WLJ, for that. All right, good people. What else we got? Um, Let me see. Did I get all the comments? Wayne, you know I appreciate you. I appreciate you every Sunday. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on on Texas and Governor Abbott and all of those things. Um, you know it's not personal. Um, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you sharing your perspective. You know that it's always welcome. Everybody gets to have their own perspective. And I'll come visit you in Texas. Um, what else? What else? What else? What else? What y'all got going on? Um, Anything? Any questions I can help somebody with right now? Relative to tiny houses, I am rolling out some workshops, a tiny house basic, just kind of taking it down to the very basics of tiny houses, and then 101 and 201 and tiny house placement and some workshops for officials. So all of those things, I'm excited about it because that's the stuff that brings me joy. Talking about tiny houses and doing this work is my love, and helping people see the um, benefits of um, tiny houses, the non-traditional. So I had a conversation with somebody who was talking about tiny houses on foundation and land ownership and equity, the difference in tiny houses on foundation and how you can get equity, and one of the things that is also part of this education is WLJ, I see your comment. I'm making a note. One of the things that I feel like, and as part of our education, is we've we've always spoken to home ownership and land ownership as the ways to build equity here in the United States. That's also part of the the core of systemic racism here in the United States, because land ownership for so long was reserved for only parts of the people, by white people. We also know how land has been stolen in so many ways from black and brown people. And so if you attach wealth to land ownership and you restrict land ownership by stealing land, you restrict land and home ownership by zoning practices, which also have their roots in racism. You are, it's like Monopoly. It's the game of Monopoly. You are um, strategically building wealth for certain people in the country. It's part of how our systems have to need to. I don't, it won't happen in my lifetime, my daughter's lifetime, if ever, is the breaking down of all of those systems that were built on white supremacy and inequity, and rebuilding them. But what we have to do is think of non-traditional wealth building. And that was a conversation that I had with this person that was talking about the benefits of tiny houses on foundation for um, building equity. The way you can own a tiny house on wheels, it can be paid for, and you then invest that money in non-traditional wealth means of building wealth, stocks and bonds and those types of things that allow you to build wealth. That's the conversation. That's the way we have to start thinking, rethinking wealth building, and not just attaching it to home ownership and land ownership. There's no more, there's a finite amount of land. So everybody's not going to have land. Everybody is not destined to be a land or home owner in the traditional sense. So rethinking our connection to land and what wealth building looks like is a conversation that has to be had in this country. It has to be had for Black and brown people, as we are taught these same things of the American dream and what that looks like. And folks are chasing this elusive American dream. Um, so are things that we have to challenge people. Like, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and expect better, different results. Um, Again, that's the definition of insanity. So how do we challenge the status quo of equity being tied to home and land ownership? How do we have that conversation differently? What are some other ways to achieve um, wealth? And how do we um, challenge and change these systems so that they work for Black and brown folks? Um, Thank you, Sadiq. I appreciate that so much. Did I ever revisit the topic of financing? No, I did not do that video. So when I get myself back together, thank you for that reminder. I have it on a list somewhere. I will do a what's your question on financing. Casey is saying there was some type of tiny house event in Virginia in June. I missed it. Were you aware of it? I don't know if you're talking about in DC, the HUD's event. Maybe. I knew about that one, and um, if that's the event you're talking about, it's a major event. It was the weekend after I had my first procedure, so I couldn't attend. I'm not sure if you're talking about another event. Colleen, is there a particular insurance company that will insure tiny houses? I know of two. I'll re-add that information. We talked about that last week too. Last week, I think it was last week. I can add that information to the description for the insurance companies that I'm aware of. Two insurance companies I'm aware of, and then RVIA insurance, which is RV insurance if you work with an RVIA certified builder. Okay, Latasha is saying, for the person that is starting out or interested in tiny living, would you recommend them finding a location for a tiny house first, or they can get the tiny house and figure out where to put it later? I would say doing both at the same time. um, is is my thought process. They need to happen in tandem, um, with the understanding that finding a location is likely, and then building, you're likely going to have to pay for that location, like to hold it. So I recommend both. And because, and when I'm saying both, building a tiny house, there, most builders, if you're working with a builder, most builders right now, their timelines are long timelines, and so you kind of need to be doing both at the same time. One of the things, a plug again, once I have my developers finish this, the search functionality, that is one of the things that the app for cooperative communities is going to help with, being able to find that location for future tiny house owners, people who will be building tiny houses. And once the search functionality is working as it should be, I am going to going to do another video to walk us through the app again. Colleen is asking, are there particular appraisers for tiny homes? So if you're talking appraisal, that in the traditional sense of appraisal would be for a tiny house on foundation. And those would be your same appraisers that you use in just regular conventional home ownership. There's not necessarily an appraisal process for tiny houses on wheels. If you're kind of speaking to like maybe an inspection, that's a different conversation, but the prices for tiny houses are generally going to, and for resale, if that's the piece of it too, is going to be decided by the person who owns that tiny house, who built that tiny house. So there's not like an appraisal process for tiny houses like there is for traditional home ownership. And inspection, if that's kind of what you're thinking of, um, a, a neutral builder or another tiny house builder could conduct an inspection for you. Um, a regular, a traditional builder, a on foundation builder could as well, but it's the challenge is understanding the connection of the home to the trailer. That's going to be the main thing that you'll want to focus on. And so then that's when you're gonna need to rely on the person who built that tiny house to have pictures and the plans, their drawings, video of how of the process of them actually building the home, and how the attachments um, at the floor, at the trailer, and the framing, and the roof attachment, those key attachment points, you'll want them to provide video and pictures of how that was done. Do you recommend financing your tiny? I wouldn't mind putting a deposit down on something and financing the rest. I don't know that. I think that that's a personal decision. If you um, have the funds to pay for it outright and not finance it, I think that would kind of be the same um, or a better conversation than even buying a car. I think that's all going to be based on individual financial situation. I did not finance my house, but when I built my house almost 10 years ago, it wasn't an option. Um, that to me is more of a personal conversation. There are not as many financing options as for tiny houses, which I'm pretty sure you're aware of. And as I understand it, the financing options that are available um, are are more kind of on the personal loan type thing, and their requirements are stringent. So except for like the RBI options. If you're building with an RBI certified builder, then being able to go through a credit union may lend more options. Okay, the Great American Tiny House Show. Um, so I'm familiar with the Great American Tiny House Show. I think y'all know, like, some of these shows I kind of stepped back on years ago because I wasn't pleased with how they were being rolled out in the lack of diversity and inclusion. I'm not speaking to the Great American Tiny House. I'm just talking in general. I don't I got to think about who runs that one. Um, the lack of diversity and inclusion in speakers and in content, not just who's speaking, but what they're talking about, um, was something that has been off putting for me for many, many years. Something that I was very vocal about years ago. And then I stopped trying to tell folks who have no intentions of being diverse and inclusive, stop wasting my breath. And so um, I have stepped back from participating and attending many of the tiny house shows. So I know that they're going on, but I don't necessarily participate in a lot of them. Sadiq says, I'm ready to stop paying rent. I feel you. Um, I'm going to get in the Patreon and book some consulting conversations as soon as I can. All right. Look forward to it. I look forward to that for you. Um, Happy you are here as well, Lorraine. Glad you are here. Happy Sunday to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, Rosalind is saying the American dream is actually a nightmare and a rat race for most Americans, regardless of race these days. Um, I agree with that 100%, but there's still that segment of folks who are of um, who who aren't black and brown, who still feel like who don't understand that um they're not included in the American dream because they feel like they're just included because they're white. And they don't realize that they ain't talking about y'all because y'all don't have no money either. Um, you're poor, and so that none of this applies to you. There, this work is for this conversation is for the wealthy. Um, um, I'm trying to give the who is um, the president who had that. I'm getting ready to come up with it right now. Lyndon B. Johnson, who said, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. That was Lyndon B. Johnson. And so there's still that segment of folks who, because they feel like they're better than the colored man, as Lyndon B. Johnson said. They don't recognize that this American dream ain't for you either, because you can't play in it because you don't have the money either. But anyway, I agree. I agree with that totally. Um, Lori, I believe in cooperative association, land trust ideas. Power in numbers is the future. I agree with that too. And that is one of the pieces of the Cooperative Communities app that I've created. It allows for that cooperative conversation so that people who are interested in building community together can do so. I agree with that as well. Um, Wayne is saying if you're a member of Navy Federal Credit Union, they will finance a new tiny home as long as it meets the RB US standard. Yes, that's part of that RBIA certification. Credit unions will finance RBs. And so if you're building with an RBIA certified builder, if you're building a tiny home, on wheels with an RVIA certified builder, it is classified as an RV and you can get a loan from a credit union. But it has to be built by an RVIA certified builder. Let's see. Oh, Colleen is saying, oh, this is for the appraiser. Yes, to see if the value of the home has increased, but your other point is important too. Must make sure the home is sturdy and up to whatever code there is already. Yes, so tiny houses on wheels aren't in that in the conversation right now for appraisal and uh increased value like that. That process isn't in place yet for tiny houses on wheels. Um, but I understand what you're asking. Elle is saying creating and supporting our own spaces remains the best solution. Absolutely. Yeah, so RBIA certified. I see someone saying that's good information. Credit unions, I'm gonna say it again. Credit unions offer loans for RVs. Period. If you are a member of a credit union, and it doesn't have to just be Navy Federal, a credit union will finance an RV. And so, if you build your tiny house on wheels with an RVIA certified builder, your tiny house then qualifies as a RV. And that is when you would use that to your advantage to get a loan. So generally that tiny house builder who is RVIA certified is going to have a relationship with a credit union or a couple of credit unions that they'll refer you to. Or if you have your own relationship with a credit union, then you can get your loan for that tiny house through the credit union because the house is RVIA certified. Or is yes, RVIA certified. It can only be RVIA certified by a RVIA certified tiny house builder. The other time your tiny house being classified as an RV comes in handy is if you want to be in an RV park that will only allow certified RVs. My house is not a certified RV, so there are some RV parks that would not allow my tiny house there. But if you have your tiny house built by an RVIA certified builder, then you will be given certain credentials to indicate that. And if an RV park is requiring it to be certified as an RV, you will be allowed to take your home there. When it is not beneficial for you to indicate that your house is an RV is when most areas have rules about living in an RV is illegal. That's just many cities and counties have that rule. So then that's not when you want to start talking about my house is certified as an RV. That's when you want to be having conversations about the fact that it is a tiny house on wheels and leaning toward the conversation that it is a home just on a foundation of wheels. Because it's not going to benefit you at all to have that conversation and call your tiny house an RV if you are trying to change minds and persuade officials to allow you to live in it. So you just have to know when it's beneficial. If you um, build with an RVIA certified builder, when it's beneficial to you, and then it's beneficial to you from a financing perspective. Beneficial if you want to be in an RV park that requires it to be a certified RV. But other than that, you don't want to call your tiny house on wheels an RV if you're trying to live in it because that is going to cause you problems. Okay, so I hope that has been helpful. I will be doing a video on financing, and so we'll go over that again. All right, good people. Thank you all for being here, for participating, for all of the things. Thank you for the good wishes. Um, all of those things. Thank you all every Sunday, as always, for showing up and being in community with me. I appreciate you all so much. And I will see you next Sunday. I'm wishing everybody, myself included, a great week. And yeah, let's see if there's anything else. Sadiq is asking, this new spot you're looking into, do you think it'll be permanent? I don't want to keep moving if I don't have to. So it is my intent, and I've already said that, I'm looking for a space where I can stay. Um, and what that looks like. Like that was my intent to be here, to stay here, which is how and why I built as I did. I did not I didn't anticipate, obviously didn't anticipate health issues, and didn't anticipate the disconnection and how that would impact me mentally, and just being disconnected. So it is my hope to be somewhere where I can stay. Thank you, Sadiq. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Elle. I appreciate you all so much. I will see you all next week. As my granddaddy would say, Lord willing and the creek don't rise. I will see you all next Sunday. All right. Happy Sunday, everybody. Have a fabulous week. Thank you all so much. And I will talk to you guys soon. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much.